Hello there, greetings. Welcome to another Wisdom Wednesday. Today, I am with retired school teacher, and she is also a calypsonian, but she will tell you a bit more about herself because it's a bit much for my brain. But her name is Carol Francis, and today she and I are going to speak about the upcoming SEA exam, which in my day used to be common entrance. It is an exam, it's a common entrance exam where our young ones, those between 12, 13, that type of age group, are tested and they then move on to the various secondary schools on the island. We are here in Carol's home, and she is very concerned about the effects that the whole exam and the way we go about it has on the young ones. But before we go into that, she is going to introduce herself and she is going to just let it all out, say how she feels. Okay, Carol,
Hi
welcome.
everyone, pleasant afternoon. I'm Carol Francis, or Angela Carol Francis. I have been a public servant. No, I worked in a statutory authority for 21 years and did not like what I had to do. I wanted more reaction. I wanted people to speak to me. I wanted more of the human element in the job, because what I was doing basically involved doing, things on files and having to respond to correspondences, but
Right.
I wanted a deeper interaction. So after 21 years of being at that statutory authority, I left and began to teach zero salary from 21 years and starting to teach, because I had always had this passion for teaching.
Okay, fine. So you didn't begin your working career as a teacher?
Definitely not. But I was in a statutory authority, but everything I saw advertised for teaching and everything I saw with training of teachers, I would be doing that. So I said to myself, I'm in the wrong place. So it took me 21 years, and then I moved and went over to teach. My first job was at Speyside Anglican School.
Okay.
So that morning when I in traveling up, it was a long distance, I started to sing at the back of this song was being played. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I thought it meant this is for me.
Right.
I can see all obstacles in my way.
Yes.
So therefore, and I know I'm going to meet the children, and I started thinking of the faces I will meet and how I would interact with them.
Right. Okay, great.
And so I started teaching. So I taught for maybe 12 years, moved to various schools, and then finally ended up at Civilian Conservation Corps, where I was assisting some of the underperformers after they left school.
Right, okay, fine.
And now I'm finished with that, but I can never be finished with the whole education.
Yes, no, it's
I
a
can never
continuing cycle.
But I'm concerned about the C exam. The reason being is that I think that we should have more of the affective domain in the C exam. I think that we are doing too much academics, and I think at the expense of students knowing about character building, perseverance, conflict resolution, problem solving, respect for self and others.
Right.
And I think if we were to try to have that element introduced in the C exam, it will help for a smoother transition when they go to secondary schools. So you see, we have a lot of fights, and for no real reason.
Well, we would say so. We have entire countries fighting
Right.
for no real reason
Right.
to,
But students, they are supposed to be young and enjoying their life.
Yeah, but before we go much further, you said more affective something.
The affective domain.
Well, what do you mean by affective
All right.
domain? And
The affective domain is when you were doing teaching practice and you had to do lesson planning, you had to address the cognitive domain, and in every lesson there's some lesson to be taught.
Right, like a
Deep,
parable almost.
not so much of a parable, but something to affect the emotions.
Okay, all
Right?
right.
So
Right.
if you're doing lesson planning, you will have to address the that domain. How should I put it?
So it's something that could tie them to the lesson where you show
Right,
how
so
it
for-
affects you in your
Exactly.
in your
Right.
day-to-day life.
In your day-to-day life.
All right,
Particularly
fine.
that would happen in the area of social studies.
Okay.
Social studies.
But like if it's in maths, for instance, you show that to go to the grocery store, you need to know how to count, you need to know, is that sort of thing included there?
More or less, but not exactly that. More or less the values coming out, values of what the child has learned,
Right.
a value system.
That would
Link.
eventually be applicable in their
Right.
day-to-day life.
So more or less you integrate that. They would tell us to integrate that aspect
Right.
into lesson planning.
Okay, fine, I understand.
Right? Because we have feelings in everything we do, we have feelings.
Okay.
So I am of the opinion that if students learn to live with each other, respect and value each other, then you would have a better transition from primary to secondary school.
Right.
Because at that time too now they're entering puberty, and they will be having mixed emotions, strange feelings, strange emotions, and so forth. They need that kind of background. But what I think is a problem is that it's easier to mark academic than the affective domain, the affective subjects. It's easier to mark that than morals and values. It's very hard to mark.
But why mark at all?
Well-
With those things, if it's thought to be...
Well, sometimes we're leaving it to it's a hidden, sometimes we consider it the hidden curriculum, but the hidden curriculum is very important.
Yeah, but assessing how far and what somebody has achieved it doesn't have to be a mark.
Well, since we're so hung up on putting a mark at everything, but what can happen is that we have to use role play. Role play to do character building and self-esteem and having respect for each other and respect for each other's point of view. It is better done by means of role play. So you create scenarios for the youths and have them work out their problems that way.
Yes. So they will be into more problem solving.
That's right.
With more understanding for each other and recognizing
Tolerance
that
of each
yes,
other's.
and recognizing at an early age, this is how we made up. This is how our emotions work. This is how you could cool down a situation.
That's right.
And you think that, especially in light of all the conflict and the we have so much violence within our society now. It shows, and getting where you are coming from, it shows that we are not being trained
Yes, we're
how
not
to
addressed.
live with each other and resolve conflicts and so at an early age. What then is the present education system at primary school preparing the child for, you would say?
Well, throughout my time there, I didn't see much of a preparation in that area. I didn't see much of a preparation. But from time to time, we hear educators talk about students' behaviors and attitudes. But we still need curriculum change in that area, so that we would better understand the charges.
Okay, so what I am hearing then, correct me if I'm wrong, that the emphasis at this stage of these children's life that we are placing on academics, counting this, that, the all this ton load of books they're carrying to school and all of that, we should definitely spend more time in preparing them for more hands-on practical living
And for life in general. And
while
for
in
living with their fellow men, with teachers. You see teachers and students fighting it out. That should never be.
right,
Something is wrong there.
yes.
That should never be.
So,
So we need more character education. We need that. We are crying out for that. And you see that happen when students are at play. You see little children come in, Miss so-and-so did this to me, and they have their little problems. And that's the time we should seize the moment, a teaching moment, and show them exactly how to interact with each other, that they could be tolerant of each other. They will have their fights still, nevertheless.
of course, but why I had to have a little silent moment there? Can I teach what I do not know?
Well, that's it. It is. That's a hard thing.
But then I suppose,
So we have to have a greater thrust towards moral values and moral educations and things like that.
but do you think that if part of the present curriculum, part of that time is used to invest more in how we live and some of the things you are outlining and so on, that there would be a great loss in some of the subjects that are presently taught?
Definitely not. Because remember in life you're striving towards getting a well-rounded personality.
Yes.
You know. Some of the subjects you can do in fusion, but some of it you have to teach habits of the mind directly. Perseverance, persistence, caring, sharing, respect for each other. These
Yes.
habits of the mind have to be addressed and seriously if we have to live as a people. Because when you go to a place to get service, an office, it is not the language and the maths and the chemistry. You're not interacting with that. You're interacting with that person, the consciousness, the attitudes, the behavior, and the respect. And
Yes.
that is what comes to the fore.
And if our children do not learn that and that approach at an early age, we are putting them at a disadvantage. And not only them, the entire nation, because these children are our future.
Definitely.
And it is not, I know a lot of argument would be that these are some of the values a child needs to learn at home. But we have the fact that, well, we already alluded to the fact that you can't teach somebody something you don't know.
That they don't know.
In addition, there are 24 hours in a day, and it's not like if the mother home with the children, everybody working, everybody out, and the children spend most of the time with their school teacher. So what you're saying, miss, is that primary school should be more foundation building as far as a child's character, their interpersonal skills, for them recognizing what their emotions are, how to control them, dealing with the value of each other person and the fact that we are a team, we are one nation, we're supposed to be building, going together, and that sort of, well, for want of another word, indoctrination into.
I do agree with you. We really have to look, because we really have to look at getting that well-rounded personality that can be an asset to society.
Yes.
That should be our goal.
Yes. I hear you. When was it? Friday? I went to visit her with a girlfriend of mine, and her son, he's not even ready for, we had to pick him up on the way to their home. And the first thing when he came in, the car after, he say, "Evening, mom, Auntie Dedre," and he went straight into how his back was hurting him so much. His book bag is so heavy. So, and he went on. He said, "We don't even use all the books. I have to carry them, and then when I reach,
They're not being utilized.
they're not being utilized." And he was so frustrated because he's a little frail. But the mother and all just tried to walk him out, and she said the bag too heavy for her and all.
Yes, adults find that the bags are too heavy. Actually, and some of the bags themselves weigh a lot. Some of the bags are not suited. I'm not going to put all the blame. I'm not putting the blame on parents, but they need to buy bags that are not.
The bags
The
should
bags
be
are too
lighter.
heavy. They have
Yeah.
heavy wheels and some.
Well, some
Like
of them, the wheels basically is to make them more mobile. So they try and don't have to lift so they could pull.
But I've seen some that really look very
Cumbersome.
yes. But then they would have problems with their spine, because most of them, they're not going to be walking straight after a while, because you see that, especially if you live up a hill, a child
So you
lives
see
up a
that
hill.
as a real threat? Have
Of
we all
course
had any?
it is a threat.
Okay.
But so I have a friend who said that at a place, I can't remember, in Trinidad, where they do physical therapy.
Yes.
They were seeing more students than ever turning up for that,
Oh.
as a result of they think it's as a result of the heavy load and how they wear strapped on their backs.
Yes.
So they said lots of it's only a matter of time for us to see what it really, the damage it is doing to our children. It is so much better to hold something in your hands, even though you have to shift it from right hand to left hand, rather than have it on your back with your spine.
But you can't carry those loads from left hand to right hand. It's a lot of weight.
But I've heard the conversation over and over again that we teachers are supposed to decide what subjects will be taught
Yes, a
on
timetable.
a particular day, and let the child bring only what is needed.
Well, of course,
But
that makes sense.
somehow I don't know whether, by and large, to what extent teachers in general were doing that.
But okay, even so, we moving into an era where everything could be on your phone, your laptop. We kind of almost doing away with books.
That's
Those
right.
children probably don't know nothing about books except the ones that they having to tote, and it must be giving them a very negative um, love affair with books when all they could think of it is weight and it heavy and whatever. But can there be some sort of thing? How are we transitioning it as far as that? If children carrying books, and the other thing that Jamai said to me is this young boy. He said, "Auntie Dedre, this is not even all my books,"
That is very frightening.
and he can't tote part of it. And in addition, the mother saying she had to make magic to get the books in the first place because they are so expensive, they're so plentiful, and then the children not even using them really.
And there's something seem to be going with the publishers. Something, I don't know. It's just, I have seen students who had hardly used any book. There's some books that won't touch at all. You could be in
Right.
standard one and still didn't even touch a book. The teacher didn't even touch it, unless maybe you, the parents, see that book and you decide that you're going to assist your child with it,
Yeah.
so that you can utilize, the book. But it happens in many instances. I don't know if they are workbooks. Some of them are workbooks.
Yeah, but we can't afford to be buying books because they were published by somebody and they make sense, and to be having them in the school system if the children are not using them. If you know that you don't have to use them, they could be recommended if you want to do extra work or something, but not necessarily to carry to school. Well, anyway,
How old was that child?
Jamai is 11. Just turned 11 this month. Was it this month or last month? Yeah.
And then when you went, but if I may go forward here, but in secondary school that doesn't seem to be the problem. Anyway, teachers are more organized there and they know what subjects are done, would be done on what particular day. So I guess
Yes,
it's
you have a
different.
timetable then.
Yes.
You have a timetable then. You have a timetable then. I suppose what they probably, well, I can't guess what they're doing, right? But I would have to imagine that the educated among us have sat and be continually thinking over this. They probably think that at primary school, you give them a more all-rounded education. But what we are seeing that it not really...
It should not be at the expense of their health, taking those books.
Yeah, it shouldn't be at the expense of their health, and we need to know how to live with each other too.
I really don't think that schools have enough space to have lockers in the primary school for children to keep their books. I really don't think so. Some balance has to be struck between the teacher and the parents, letting the parents know I will be doing this particular day. I think we should make a concerted effort to do it that way.
Another thing, at one point, the government was buying the books and the children were using it. What happened to that?
Well, remember, I'm not in the system now, but I do remember way back that some parents would be keeping the books well, and some children will their books return in shambles, and some. So it was not, that system didn't work because not all the parents were very careful with the books, and somehow it didn't work. So the return of the book was like not 100%.
Nowhere near that, I suppose.
Nowhere near that.
So it would, okay, well, I suppose they would know whether they would have a penalty.
I'm trying to remember why they did that, and if it was it that to help.
Well, probably to help the parents. If the school has the book, I don't have to buy it, so I go to school, but I don't know.
I remember that, you're taking me back to my school. I mean, I left school more than 10 years now, 12 years now. But I do remember that.
Is that long you home?
Definitely.
All right, okay. The thing about it is, what can be done? This is something for the Ministry of Education to address, because there's absolutely nothing the teacher on their own could do, or the parent or child could do, because we're working within a system. Is this true, or are there things?
Well, if you wait on the Ministry of Education to solve many things, you'll be waiting for years.
Yes.
Because everything involves some memo going to this desk, this person's desk, and some memo, and so I think a great balance has to be struck between the individual class teacher.
Right, and how they handle.
Exactly. The individual class teacher. And I don't think that is anything hard to achieve.
But they wouldn't run into problems of not following the curriculum, of doing things outside the box, have problems with the principal when you're trying to buck the system? And
I think if it is for the greater good of the children, I don't see a big problem there. Because actually, when we were in training college, we were taught that you come into school. We didn't use much textbooks to teach the children. We did our lesson planning on our own, whatever resources, and we used that lesson planning to go and teach.
Oh my gosh! Well, my what is called that again? My mind done gone to all kind of thing. Studying whether it have some more nefarious thing at play, where we have people selling school books to children, whether you need it or not.
I think some of that happened. I remember reading it on the papers. Some of
Really?
that did happen, something like that.
So we have some sort of mafia within those who publish in school books, and they get it on the timetable for the children to buy. So they have to buy it for.
There were several articles on the papers I remember reading. I can't remember if it's the Guardian or Express, but there were articles about that. That students have books which they really don't need. The publishers they don't want to lose money.
Well, right, but it is more than the publisher then, because somebody within the ministry will have to say yay or nay
Give
to
them
the
the
book,
okay.
whether it's on the book list.
Yes.
So unless you have serious lobbying going on and all that sort of thing, as far as for.
I remember when every time they were to bring a new book, I remember sometimes the principal will show us, and we would have a series of books, and we would be looking through them to see which ones they would want to order. And but I don't know if they still do that. And
I can remember back in my day, which would be a hototo number of years ago. But when
same
you have
here,
a book,
same here too, same here.
when you have a book, your little sister could use it, and the whole family go through school, and you have to keep it good because your sister going and use it, your next brother going and use it. But even if a child has to repeat a class, they can't even use their own same books
That is terrible.
because the books already done change up and some.
And usually, sometimes there are not much changes. A few pictures here and there, a few.
And you have to
In
buy
some
it.
instances, there aren't many changes. The core of the book, the main core of the book remains. The core information
Yes.
remains. With maybe a little extra pictures or.
But then, so what? In essence, what I gathering from this whole thing is that we are frustrating our children and giving them a negative approach to learning and becoming more, because if it's such an uphill struggle for them, because even with the C exam, we didn't really even start to talk about the depth of that in the studying and all that sort of thing.
I think the C exam, it is so cruel to children. I know there must be competition, but it is so cruel. It is so cruel. At a time when their bodies are changing, they have changes going on in their emotions, and I think it is so packed. I know there must be competition, there must be exams, but I think it could be a more the amount of items, so much items, and you usually hear children at the end of it say, "Oh, stress," and I'm tired, it is over. That shouldn't be at that age. At 10, 11, they could finally breathe, and then you hear all the radio shows about ministers praying for them, and we asking that God cover them and that everything work well. What is this? What is this about?
Yes. Saying they are not being allowed to be a child, and from the time they go into school at 5, 6, this is what they are being geared towards. Yes, it's really, really is much.
It's too much. Even the child who is a high achiever will tell you it is too stressful and it is too much. You see the joys on their faces on the day after exam, or the day of exam. That's no joke, it's serious.
Yeah. And probably the parents need, well, oh my gosh, we can't even talk about what the parents need, because the parents are under just as much stress.
So something is wrong.
Yes, I remember when both my sons, my sons are 7 years apart. So I remember for the last one more. Well, back to my first son. He wrote the common entrance, that thing, he wrote it twice. He wrote it the first time, And I think he got through for a junior secondary school as a single mother and knowing how things were and all that, and figuring that he did not apply himself as much as he could have, and not concerned about the level of maturity because he was always, fairly stable, but his adventurous spirit and, want to flex himself as a man. And I let him, he repeated it.
He was young enough.
Yes, he was young enough. He had a first and second chance. So when he went out to St. Benedict's, he was probably 12 or something. So, and you figure that he was a little more mature. But so all then is thinking, I can remember I had hired somebody who would come home there and work with him and all that sort of thing, even back then. My other son, he had a different approach and all that. When I say not different approach, different retention skills. But still, I was just so excited. I must stand up outside the exam room for the whole time. You drop him and you're out there. And you're just more than them almost.
And there's more excitement now.
Oh gosh, yes.
Because they've added so much more to the exams.
So what the exam is, maths and English? That's it?
I can't remember. I have to keep my abreast. I know maths and English for sure. Creative writing is there.
Right.
And I don't think they do social studies anymore. But you could get it's quite possible you could get a comprehension passage which involves social studies. Maths and English. Creative writing. Yeah, I have to keep abreast and trying to know everything, yes?
Well, the thing about it is, then if it's just those subjects, why is it? I know it is a strain, and with plenty lessons and this and that and all that sort of thing, they can't. And then they come out with all this information and little to none on their how to interact with their fellow man.
So it's chaos.
Yes, it's unbalanced.
Because all this pent up feelings has to have some exposure, some vent, some place to vent it out. So instead of talking it out, they fight it out.
Yes, so you're seeing that right now the primary schools and things have a lot of fighting.
They fight it out.
So, Miss, what do you see? If it was in your hands, what do you see as a solution? Although you have been alluding to certain things right through, but...
I see more parental involvement. And we have a hard time training some of those parents.
Yeah.
We have a hard time. I don't know that means that the school, I believe, should have social workers attached to the school. Not that you're going to find a social worker when there's a problem. There should be a place for school social worker.
Okay, and they don't have social workers attached to the schools?
I really can't say if they, and if they do have, may not be all. So
if it's implemented now.
If it is. So I think that social, And that when you have the social worker in the school, any problem with the child, the social worker should be able to address it along with the principal, leaving room for the teacher to complete her syllabus and her curriculum. Because then she will have to be leaving her other charges to address the situation. It's not easy.
Right, I see. So if you have a challenge with one child, once the teacher is involved, to even to talk to the parent or talk to anybody, the other 15 other people in the class, some bigger classes too, by the way.
I remember in my time it was like, sometimes you had 23. I remember having 23 already, but I haven't been to schools for a while, so I don't know how much the average is. You know.
There's a lot of children to
But
be
the
in
country
charge of.
schools they have it much nicer.
The schools in the country, yes, because the classes
So I
wouldn't
guess
as
people will
big.
move there and make some more children up there in that farm.
Oh my gosh, we just have to pray for the situation, yes, and continue to remember that our children
It's
are our
not easy.
future.
Teachers have it very tough. They do. And they have a life to live, they have their own family, they have their own children.
Yeah, but the stress that is it, I think that for more than one reason, besides the fact that we need well-rounded adults and we need to groom the children from now, it would also serve to counteract the force of social media and the negative aspects that um, they are exposed to. Because remember all the games and the different things, the level of violence in these things, the level of pornography that they exposed to at an early age and all those things. Unless we add and you use the word value at some point, unless we start showing that listen, all of this is out there, yes, but what
You should not let it overpower you.
yeah, but you see, children learn what they are exposed to, eh? And we are exposed in a way that it almost becomes like if it is no longer fashionable to be an upright citizen and to be a good girl or boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they laugh those students who try to keep being a good role model, they are mocked at school and they're laughed at. And so you have gangs, then you have gangs, you know, against certain set of students who want to keep upright. You have gangs confronting them.
Yeah, but then where is that coming from?
So I'm different to you. You're different to me. And I am confused by the fact that I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to war with you. I will just watch you and I don't like it, I'm going to war with you. You're studying too hard, you're keeping too upright, I'm going to war with you. Therefore the challenge is now to find each child, to meet each child at their learning style, and to cater for, as Howard Gardner said, the principle of multiple intelligences. So the quicker we find out what our children love to do and what will engage them, the better we are able to grip them.
Yeah. You know, try as I might, I always have to reflect on the period of time I spent living in West Africa, in Nigeria, and watching their indigenous system. Almost from birth through divination, they would be able to tell the tendencies of a child and the direction that this child should be molded in and go.
Okay?
But within the modern time and structure that we have now, it's not about somebody being a farmer, being a hunter, being a fisherman, a carpenter. You know, these are not trades and vocations and so on that and we go about encouraging our children to be a part of. You have to be in the frame a little more. Yes. Yeah, so these are not things that we encouraging the children to be. Everybody want to get a job to go and work with the THA, to go and work with the government. That is what we are teaching them. And what do you need to prepare yourself for that? It's almost like we're not giving the children the realization that there is so much more that you could.
And that you have individual differences.
Yeah.
individual differences. We need to cater for that individual
Yeah,
differences.
I realize one thing is that one thing that is touching you is the fact that we don't know how to live with each other.
That is serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then some homes you find that some parents would tell their children, don't let anybody do this to you, and don't let. To some extent, they might be right, because nobody wants to know that their child can't defend themselves. But then we all can't be fighting like dogs.
Yeah. Well, besides fighting like dogs, we all don't have a warrior spirit. You understand? And then even those, and then we are not training our warriors. Even if we all have warrior spirit, we're not training our warriors to know that because you could be more aggressive, it doesn't mean you have to be advantageous. You know what I mean? Sometimes a warrior are the ones that are the most docile, and they would step because they know the force of who they are. We have a society where we almost figure, it would seem from when we're talking, that advantage, and if you're a bully and you could talk louder and beat up more and people afraid you, that is a criteria.
Acceptable.
So then children who are not of that nature, they fall by the wayside.
Quiet. But then we have to realize different personality traits, different strengths, different weaknesses, and we all have to live with each other as one. The key word is respect for self and others. Do unto others as you would have them do to you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we don't do these fancy things, but basic respect for self and others. If we could start at having that, then that's a good pillar to build upon.
The long and short of the story, we are not being taught and we are not teaching the things for us to coexist in harmony.
That's right.
Because even right now, it is important that we are as self-sufficient as we can be. And if children don't know about going in the garden, seeing about the animals, probably fishing, in equal balance. I'm not saying that everybody free sheet that what they're going to be in. But we're not mixing it up enough.
We see, we have to realize we have to educate the whole person. We have to cater for their talents and everything. But if you don't go in the garden, and most children don't even know what is pak choy, what is Christophine, what is. So I'm wondering, when their parents, if their parents go to the market, don't they take them along with them, and don't they, or do they cook these vegetables at home?
Yeah.
They will look at it and tell you, I don't want that bush.
Yeah, I don't eat that.
What's the name of the bush? They don't know. Anything green is bush, right? Anything green in the
and they
plate
want to
is
pass
bush,
it up.
and they don't want it.
Well, then too, it speaks about a lack of understanding of how your body works and the different nutrients, what we get from different things, and the importance of it in building.
The various food groups.
And the importance of what they do. So it comes right back down to practical living.
I admire that little boy who had his farm. I think he got an award, a little boy.
Okay.
And somewhere, you saw him with his little tractor, and you saw it on the papers.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, he had to get really good backing and inspiration and support. Support is the word I'm looking for.
inspiration and support from his parents.
We have to just pray for our children. Yes, I just keep coming back to that. But the thing is, saying we have to pray for this and pray for that is almost seem like is a big cop out, because
We're looking for a
yeah,
escape
prayer without works. What are we physically doing? Because prayer, what is the prayer doing? The prayer is that with the hope that somebody open their eye and could be able to do something. So
Like what you say, prayer without works.
yeah, because okay, it have those who praying, but what about those who are responsible for making the changes and who
Decision
going to
makers,
who going to advocate,
policymakers.
and who going to make sure that things are done? Who taking that responsibility? Because we always need a matter of sorts, because we could sit down and talk about all the things that need to be done. But who going and say, okay, I'm going and form a group for us to, well, before you go out anywhere and you push anything to get anybody to do anything, come up with what suggestions that you find may work. Probably do a mock curriculum, maybe something like that, and show them. And then at some point, they get one or two schools to do a pilot project.
I always think about this. In my school, I remember seeing, there are people, we do agri-science.
Right.
You could choose to do it as an elective when you go to training college, but I don't know now. And the agri-science teachers, you never see them one day out in the garden. You never see them one day, or half a day dressed with like they go into the garden or with a tool in their hand.
So all the schools, do the schools have gardens?
Well, many schools have gardens, but it's in bush.
Oh, it's not being maintained.
Sometimes you might find on a staff for that particular term or terms or years, there would be somebody who would push it,
right,
and the garden would look blooming. And if that person is not around again, has been transferred or retired, you could always know there's no more garden again.
Yes. I sitting down here talking to you and I see a school where you almost have everything from garden to chicks to everything.
Well, years gone by, some of the older folks would tell you that they had it very good. They did a good job at that. Some years gone by, many in country schools, they would have chickens. They would,
Oh, right.
They taught them entrepreneurship.
That is what we need. For them to be able to figure that it is a possibility that I could earn, and that my ambition is not only to go and get a government job or go by somebody and work for somebody. We have so many things.
And it could lead to a career in veterinary science also, by you looking after animals, little chickens or rabbits. You could be interested in veterinary science.
I was reading, where was it? I can't remember, but they were speaking about the fact that children in Russia learning mining and oil thing, and they don't. And they don't have anything to mine and thing over there. I don't know if it was Russia or the country, but that or was it Germany? These children are being sent to Africa and being sent to other places where it have mines and where it have oil, yes, where it have those resources. And the people who live there not learning nothing about that. You're not making the children at an early age listen. You come from an oil-rich country. We are sheiks, we have natural gas, we have this, we have that. This is the thing. We have a coral reef, we have a protected nature forest, stuff like that. I couple weeks ago, earlier this month, and I was mentioning it, that I was Charlottesville with my cousins, and I met a group of what they call environmentalists. I forget what my brother Victor tell me his name, but they were going to dive the reef out there in Charlottesville to replant and to reforest the reef and to put things in place and all that sort of thing. That is a career. We don't know nothing about that. And we have a lot of people living on the island.
So that it could strengthen the marine life.
Yes,
Yeah.
and to make sure that whatever,
The fauna and
right, whatever dying, move out and replant, just like how we're dealing
and it's
with that.
important to keep that will help the fish to be there. If there are no planktons and those
Right.
plants, the fishes will move from there.
Right. So the children not even aware of that. And we have coral reefs, not one, not two. We have, and we have the main ridge, which is a reserve since 17 something or whatever.
It's protected in this hemisphere.
Yes, for hundreds of years it's there. How many school children know what it is to look in, what it is in there?
I need to go,
I went once, I need to go again.
But I'm afraid of snakes. But the guy told me that there are no snakes.
But in any event, snake afraid you more than you afraid the snake. So why you think a snake gonna just jump out? We need to go. We should probably plan and go.
I called a guy, a tourist thing, and he told me, he said, wow, smell the coffee. I said, yes, I need to go because I wrote a calypso about the flora and fauna and the rainforest, so I need to go there.
As you say that, we didn't talk about that part of you. Carol is a calypsonian. I think I mentioned that. So tell me something more about the thing.
I do my own composing and performing of my own songs since 2004.
All right.
And the titles I've got so far was Teacher's Monarch in 2015 in San Fernando.
Oh, great, yeah.
And we're very proud of that.
Yes, you should
Petruccian
be.
Sports Club. And then I got another title, Vintage Calypso,
Okay.
2021 from THA, where I sang a song by Bomber's Dream.
Okay.
I was warned before, if you can't pronounce your words and leave Bomber's song alone.
Right.
But I managed to pull it off. And those are my two major winnings, but I have been a finalist in the Young Kings for several years, about 5 consecutive years, dating back to 2004. And it all began by teaching.
Okay, you're interested in singing calypso?
Yes, because the principal will say, there's a contest coming up, and I want you to see if you could help the students compose a song, and I would do it, and they would win. So then I said, look, let me try it. And I would tell them to go on stage, show them how to interact. And so eventually I tried it, and it's going good so far. I love it. I love composing. I really have some songs and I have to put them all together to make an album.
Yeah. So I am seeing that if children learn a more, to be able to observe yourself, what do you think is the strongest as far as you're composing and being able to articulate thoughts and situations and all that sort of thing? And you said you got it from by helping the children. How then could you see this sort of hands-on by singing or dancing, playing with our day-to-day life and our work? You think that it will help them?
Of course, in creativity. The exposure. First of all, we have to expose them to various settings. And then it begins by their writing. And from your writing, you could sing.
Yes.
Because your writing suggests that you would have encountered, you would have had some experiences. And then you could, if you are so inclined to sing, you sing. And if you want to speak, if you're auditory person,
Yes.
then you do the spoken word, as the case may be. But there's a place for everyone, you know. And that's one of the things I enjoyed at school, when I would go to storytelling with them and creative writing and poetry, and I would always go accompany the children and sort of coach them for that.
Well, what it is, what we want to say again, because we'll have to come back at this situation at some point, but is there anything that feel close to your heart that you want to mention? And
I want to say that we have to prepare children emotionally for the transition to secondary school. We have to prepare them so they wouldn't be bullying one another. We have to prepare them emotionally. And that should be, but there's such a rat race to do the CA exam and get it over and done with. Nobody concerned about preparing them mentally for what they're going to meet. So it's that you're just thrown into classroom with books again, and you begin the life all again in another place. Another time and place.
So the length and breadth of this story is that even if we are not aware of it, we are making our nation less than, because we are not preparing the people who would be at the helm of it now in their formative years, and we have started them on a cycle of dealing with things that are quote unquote irrelevant for life in a holistic way.
Yeah. Because the more as you progress, that is why you would hear people often say, "But he's a big man. How he thinking so? You expect better from him than a big man." Yes, he's a big man. He has grown chronological age, but his thinking is that of a child.
Yes, because that is where it stopped.
He wasn't be given experiences to help him and place into situations to help him make decisions, mature decisions, and
So we have people with stunted emotional and mental capacity.
Definitely.
Because they were not put in positions where they had time. And I suppose sometimes...
So when the real life hits you,
you
blow it out.
Yes.
It's chaos.
Well, it definitely is something for us to consider. And with the C exam coming up right there, what advice would you what could we do for the children who, well, I suppose already they have is a week away, studied what they could study, do. I think some sort of reassurance needed, because they are so tense and feeling that they have to pass for a certain school and they have to do this and they have to do that.
At least, okay, they're already going to sit the exam, but we should kind of, when they go to the secondary school, instead of just letting them go into their various classrooms, I think we should have some kind of 2 weeks, letting them know what secondary
school.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So I get what you are saying is.
Yeah, because we already did it bad in the beginning, but at least we could do is be ready to accept them. All right. Ready to do something to accept them.
I really like that practical approach, because it shows that you're on top of the matter. It's not, they're already stressed, and we already on the eve of the taking the exam. There's absolutely nothing we could do now other than to tell them, relax, no thing, try to get them a little calm. But even so, when they go out into secondary school, at least find a way of
incorporating.
yeah, but doesn't some of the secondary schools have an orientation program?
Yeah, but what does it consist of? Just saying who you are. Where I don't know. I cannot say. I think they would have something, but we need a more in depth
Yes.
to take care of their emotional needs.
Right, right,
We need
right.
a more in depth, other than where you coming from, and then place in your classroom, to begin a 7 year or a 5 year. Something should be done.
All right. So, in winding up, what you want to say? I say and I feel that sigh, and I know from all we talk that it is a very big concern.
It is a great concern because they are our future. It is a great concern because right now, when you go to offices and you're trying to get service, customer service is a big thing here in Tobago.
Yes.
And you try to get it's everybody. You want to know how to approach them. You say good morning to them, and it's terrible.
In Tobago, is there anything set up for like homeschooling? You know, some people, is that a big choice here to homeschool your child?
Well, I recently I joined the homeschool association,
Okay.
and I am supposed to go for a 4 week training, 4 consecutive Mondays, maybe in April. But homeschooling is alright. You have a right, and it's catered for in the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. You can homeschool your child, but you you get support if you join the homeschool association.
So there
They
is
will
a
give you
homeschooling
right. They will
association.
give you their curriculum, and homeschooling is not school at home. There's a difference between homeschooling and having school at home. During the COVID, we had school at home,
You're right, yeah.
which they say is not necessarily homeschooling. Homeschooling is about a different kind of curriculum. Different curriculum whereby you use the environment, you learn everything. You use, if you want to teach a child money and spending and consumerism, you take them to the grocery, and then as a family you then work it out. This is the cost of this is the cost of that, and so on. And so you use the child's problem within the home. You do the problem solving within the home, whatever.
But that is sounding more of a working, especially if it is going to be it could be monitored by the ministry and so on.
Yeah, but they and it's strange enough, you can still fit into the curriculum to do your normal exams, You still get there, although your method of teaching is different. Might learn more
Yes.
than the student. In homeschooling, the world is your curriculum.
Right.
Not so much the books, but the world.
Well, it's almost sounding that if a child's parents could afford, and when we say afford, it's not dollars and cents afford, but the time and the structure, yes, that homeschooling may be a better choice in these their formative years.
Homeschooling is good, and you join groups and you get the support of various groups.
So if somebody wants to, sorry, go ahead.
Take the child on tours. Do everything.
If somebody wants to homeschool their child, where do they go?
I can give you the number of the homeschool association.
Okay, great, fine.
And
I would put that.
They train you and so on.
Who they will train? The parent or the?
You, the parent.
Okay.
But it calls for a lot of devotion.
Yes.
You can have school anytime.
Yes. is what
But
suits.
it's called for support. Sometimes it helps when people are business people. Although business people need to go out and do their work, but they still have the time because they're not going to a government job.
Yes.
So I've seen, if I show you, I had a series of videos.
Mm-hmm.
I can show you the challenges. They will show you families and the various challenges they had to overcome.
Right.
At first, it looked as though it's impossible and they can never make it. But they have to have real family support.
All right.
But there was this mother who homeschooled her 6 children.
Wow. And she got good results.
6. That's amazing.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend now that homeschools her daughter, and my last grandson is being homeschooled too. You know, and he's brilliant, you know. But as you say, it takes a lot of devotion from both his father and his mother.
But once the formative months, the beginning is always hard, and once you're in tune and you get yourself on board, as I say, you get support. There's a whole support
System. Well, I'll really need that number, and I could always put it in the link in the chat or somewhere. All right. Well,
it was a great pleasure.
For me too. We will have to revisit at some point. So, folks, I've been with Carol Francis, retired teacher, and well, as she just said, she's getting back with the Homeschooling Association. She is a calypsonian, a composer, a grandmother. Let me take this time to wish your granddaughter all the best in her
I'm thinking about her so much.
Yes, because she has something coming up. And all right, folks, we'll see you another time. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.